But well, let's just jump into it. So, I mean, I guess we've kind of talked here and there, I guess, about work things over email. But since the pandemic, are you guys back in the office, or are you still working from home, or were you ever working from home? How did you approach it?
We, like everybody else, had to adapt. Fortunately, and you've not been to our office, but we are kind of in a little bedroom community, and we own our building, which gives us obvious complete control. Yes, it's kind of a hybrid. My answer is three parts. We have three generations in here. My partner Richard is baby boomer, 70 plus, and then office administration is younger, and then I'm right in the middle. Richard, almost since the beginning or pretty soon into the pandemic, he just opted to work from home. Technology is an awesome thing. We use a VoIP phone system, and so we literally just unplugged phones and set him up an office. He had his own personal office, but kind of created one that was work specific for him at the house. And he has probably, since I'd say around April 1st, probably 85% of his time has been from the house. The opposite for me, and again, that goes back to the nature of our office. We can completely control things. Office manager would come in and wipe down every door, every surface when she comes, still does that now. And we can kind of isolate ourselves into two different parts of the office, doors closed, and we don't have to, we can interact from a hallway, or just speakerphone. So yeah, a little bit of home stuff, but part of my home stuff was just because, my family and kids were at the house, and my house is literally, I'm lucky, it's only a mile from the office. And so I would go and just, maybe do something fun with them, just because my wife, she goes stir crazy with them home all the time. So I'd slip home and maybe do some calls from there and then come back into the office. But we've been lucky just because we own the building and there's nobody else coming in or out.
So you kind of had an escape when your wife did it, huh?
Yes. Yeah. She'd send the kids down here sometimes. They were, my oldest was a senior and my youngest is 13, seventh grade. Last year was seventh grade. And so they were still doing school. And so they'd come down here sometimes with their laptops and work just so she could have some peace and quiet. She's a teacher, so she had to do her own stuff. And so, we had laptops and Zoom calls going everywhere.
What's the deal in your neck of the woods in Alabama, or in your county, I guess, with schools? Are they starting up here, or are they doing everything virtual?
It depends. It's school system by school system, and I don't think there's anything unique here. It's pretty chaotic. Our school district is a kind of a hybrid. They have three options. One is just full on in classroom. One is full virtual, and then one's kind of in between, where labs and sports, band, things that are a little more hands on, they come into the classroom for. So it just, it's case by case.
And is your wife going back to school, or is she doing things remotely?
So the school district she's in is doing something similar, but it doesn't make a difference for the teachers because even the virtual stuff she does, she still goes into the school. So she reports, which makes sense. I mean, if I was an employer or school system, I'd rather have my staff on site. So she'll report to the school whether she's running a virtual classroom or an actual classroom.
Got it. Very cool. Well, so I mean, I guess looking back to when, mid-March, I guess, when everything kind of shifted, what kind of thing you kind of mentioned, I guess, what overall did you guys do from a office perspective to kind of adjust to that? Did pretty much Richard kind of go home and your office manager and you kind of stayed and you just developed some protocols, or kind of how did everyone kind of react and adjust when that first happened?
It was really more just kind of working out workflows and when you're connected with phone and computer, it makes it pretty nimble. I mean, not unlike what IFP did, right? I mean, you send a lot of people home, and you probably had some adjustments to workflows, but since most things are cloud-based these days, I mean, it wasn't that challenging, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think the bigger shift was just in our communication process with clients, and even to date, we don't have a lot of folks that want to come into the office. And so I don't know if that's a permanent shift. I hope it's not. I mean, I like connecting with people face to face when I can. And so, Zoom is a fine surrogate for that, but it's not the same, or whatever other systems you're using, Google, Microsoft Teams or Google Meet, any of those systems, they're not the same as face to face. But even as of right now, I don't have as many people coming in. So it's just probably overemphasizing our digital communication, our written communications. We do video almost weekly. So, I've learned from you all. Actually, we've done it for a number of years, but that's a good communication tool, just getting information out in front of clients, or even just the broad marketplace from a marketing or education standpoint.
So you send out a video every week to all of your clients?
Yes. Yeah. Every once in a while, we'll miss a week just because of schedules or whatever, but it's pretty consistent that there's some type of video format going out every week.
How do you film that? Do you do that on your phone, or do you have a camera you use?
Well, we've done it various ways over the years. We've done it in-house. I actually have a PR firm, marketing firm that comes in and they just record it with a wireless lapel mic, so you get good audio. And we do it sometimes in the office, but a lot of times I'll do it remote. I'm about to do one tomorrow. Actually, I'm doing a community series, and I have about 4 different folks lined up. So some of the stuff we do is not, it's a little more philosophical, I guess. Like I'm doing a video with a local bank partner. I'm doing a video with a personal trainer, not a personal trainer, a physical therapist. Now that sounds weird, but he and I have talked a lot about how, especially for an older generation, when your body doesn't move well, you get degenerative disease, you slow down, and obviously that ties into healthcare costs. So I do some creative things to connect different industries in the community from a professional standpoint. I've got a meeting. I'll do another video with an estate planning attorney. So just trying to do things differently and communicate and educate the community.
That's pretty interesting. I was in Utah this weekend with a few buddies just to get away. And
Right.
one buddy sells medical software in the healthcare space, healthcare software, I guess. But we had an entire conversation about how, what if, the healthcare system and pricing and insurance was better linked to our fitness and incentivize people in better ways to maintain a certain level of health, so that we could maybe have a system where more people were covered, or so we had a similar conversation. So I think that's common, where a lot of these conversations about whether it's finances, healthcare, insurance are going to start to merge, because it is all connected, but we don't treat it like that.
We should connect it more. The idea of physical fitness and fiscal fitness or whatever. I know these cliches that are out there, but and I know that's happening. I think it's being driven from the workplace.
Yeah.
Because of insurance costs. If you're dealing with 401k plans and benefit programs, insurance programs, that's where the costs really can be controlled. And if you educate the employee better, then it's a win-win all the way around. But I'm doing it more from the aspect of just the individual and understanding the enormity of healthcare expense that can come down the pike for people. And you can't control everything, right? I mean, anybody can get cancer, anybody can have a heart attack, but I see this all the time, degenerative disease that slows people down, and when you can't move well. And that's why I thought the idea of bringing in a PT happens to be a friend of mine, and he does a lot of work with the senior population. If you move better, you're generally going to be in better fitness, better health, and you're going to stave off degenerative disease. And that ties into me from a cost perspective when you're dealing with that aspect of a financial plan.
I think though that you might you pretty much just sending an email to your clients with a video saying, "Hey, you're old, you should stretch more." But I get it.
That's right. Yeah, if you want to be blunt about it, I try to be a little more PC, but that's it.
That's what I would tell my dad. You're old, you need to stretch more. So
that's great.
So speaking of your clients, then when everything happened and the market obviously dipped, what was their general reaction? So, what were the people that were calling you saying? And then I guess for you guys proactively, what were you kind of going out and saying?
So the response from this has been a fascinating thing, and I'd be interested in you sharing with me. You talk to advisors all the time. If our response, if our experience is unique, I don't think it is. Just talking with wholesalers and folks in the industry that come through the office or get on the phone. But our experience has been that folks have just been kind of hands off. Like they didn't panic. It was very, very different than 2008, 2009 or 2000, 2001. And we also explained it to them. We were very proactive. In fact, incredibly proactive. I probably spoke with 90% of my clients in a 3-week span on the phone. We did, some people may argue you shouldn't have done that, but we just felt convicted about it. We did make some wholesale allocation changes for folks, and we're still sitting some extra cash. I know this video isn't about how I'm deciding to invest clients' money, But I think just the fact that folks they knew we were engaged. We had a conviction and we were taking action on that conviction. But their response was just distinctly different. There was a lot of worry and anxiety, and I can't say there isn't anxiety, but 2008, 2009 was very different experience. We were having to react, and there were so many inbound calls, so many inbound concerns, emails, whatever. It was the opposite. We were pushing out so much from outbound phone calls, emails, whatever. I probably sent 8 or 9 outbound emails, which is abnormal to do that many in as many weeks.
Was there any part of you that when this happened, you kind of went back to 2008 and 9 and said to yourself, what would I have done differently? Because I remember, I was young in the business at that time. I was actually still in college, but I was applying for jobs in this industry. But even in 2010, the market was still recovering when I worked for a company in New York. And I feel like even advisors that I talked to them, they told me they wish they had been more proactive, I guess. So was there any lessons you learned, I guess, from 08, 09 that kind of you took action on for this?
Yes, we exactly what you just said, more proactive. It's not that we didn't try to reach out to people. It was just that there was more reaction in 08, 09. There was more proaction this time. And so that's a good point. I don't know if our proaction calmed the people, but then I've talked to, like I said, other industry folks that I've networked with or have been in the office here, and they say it's been the same thing, and not necessarily folks that were as proactive as we were when I described what we did. So I don't know if there's just a general cultural shift. I don't know if 08, 09 kind of tainted the entire financial. I don't know. I don't know how to pinpoint. I think that this is going to be something, this last decade, and certainly what we're dealing with right now. This is going to go in textbooks, right? This is going to be studied for a long time. I just have a feeling that this is a unique social thing to happen on the scale that it's happening and the speed with which it happened. This is going to be studied at MIT or whatever. Different schools, finance schools, Harvard, Yale. But anyways.
What's interesting as I think about that, in 08, 09, it's not like it was your fault, but it was a financially, driven. It was a market downturn driven by financial instruments. So I bet advisors have maybe a subconscious thought of like, well, my clients probably think I should have had a heads up on this and I could have prevented it. Whereas, they can't blame you for a global virus that spread. So maybe there was it's kind of like when you have a third-party money manager, you can blame it on them versus, if you're the one investing the portfolio, there's a little bit more onus on you, I guess. But maybe that's subtly part of that.
No, I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say it that way. Obviously it was the financial system that collapsed, whereas this is a totally different scenario. I think too, what was helpful in conversation with clients is that a more traditional allocation model worked this time. More conservative assets, bonds actually worked, whereas they didn't work in 08, 09. Nothing worked, and so you actually had places that would anchor a portfolio this time whereas they didn't before.
Yeah, I know. I have one of my small book of clients. One of my clients was invested, I think, in one of Aaron and Pete's algorithmic models.
Right.
And so, I think it was a month or so into the pandemic, and he was way over the market just because of the the algorithmic portfolio that he was in. And
right.
He was so pleased with that, but it was interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
So then, kind of on the same subject, and I know I've heard this from a couple of other advisors. Did you happen to see any, significant portion of your clients deploy new assets because they saw kind of an opportunity to buy? I know I saw some of that with my book. How about you guys?
Yeah, we definitely had some cash inflow. We interestingly had 2 or 3 new clients coming on board right at that exact moment. In fact, they say sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And a couple of these clients, fairly substantial. At least for our scale, we had a client that did some in-service rollovers, husband and wife that worked at the same company, brought in about $1.5 million, and then another couple more, probably collectively $2.5 million, something like that came in. And so that was helpful because we were deploying cash. We're still sitting on some, but yeah, we did have a number of clients that had monies that were, expiring CDs or they just been sitting on some cash that said, hey, can we use this? Can we deploy it? So I wouldn't say that it was a majority of clients, but we had a handful. Enough that I said, okay, this is a little bit of a trend.
Got it. And then in terms of, in terms of like new business, I think you kind of referenced a little bit. Have you seen, I guess, relative to prior similar periods in different years, have you seen a pickup in new business? Have you seen a kind of a slowing pace? Has it been kind of the same? What have you seen from in terms of new client onboarding?
Yeah, that's a good question. In fact, I was just having a conversation with somebody about that about 2 hours ago. I would say as of right now, if I were just to add up May, June, July, it seems like it's slowed down a little bit. And that's, that's probably just whatever. I mean, I'm not doing as many outreaches. People are probably, I think, in a holding pattern. I mean, when you have a global pandemic and you're going into an election year, that seems to be a time when people kind of wait. And I've even had, in fact, back to the previous question, was on the phone with a client just yesterday that is looking, he's accumulated a bunch of cash in a corporate account that I don't manage, but we've determined just to wait till the end of the election before he even deploys it to decide what to do with it. I've just said, look, what's 3 months it's not gonna impact your financial plan substantially one way or the other. So I get that vibe right now that people are just kind of, hey, let's wait and see. It's a couple months. Let's see what's going to happen before we take action. So there was more action March, April, May, and then as we've gotten into the summer, which is a little bit slower anyways with vacations, et cetera, I think it's just been a little slower.
That makes sense. I guess just in terms of your practice in general, what is typically your typical method of new business development? Do you mainly rely on kind of word of mouth referrals from current clients? Do you have any type of kind of ad campaigns you run? What is your method, your preferred method of business development?
We've really, if I said I was going to jump on a horse and ride it, it's being in the community that we're in. Now, yes, we do outbound stuff. We have a PR firm. We do the videos. Those are put out on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, social media. We do a little bit of print, not much. But most of it is being involved in the community. Our office is right, like I said, bedroom community, about 26,000, 27,000 residents. It's probably depending on the demographics you look at, third or fourth wealthiest community, in the state, fifth wealthiest community in the state. So it's just kind of a neat little spot. And I am very involved in the communities. I'm part of an economic development board. I'm on the Chamber of Commerce board. I help with school stuff, sports. And so you just have a natural conversation. And our office is literally across the street from City Hall. And it's just, you're right in the heart of everything. I can't tell you, it's fascinating. I've literally more times than I can remember, 5, 6, 8 times in the last 2 years even, had somebody pull in the driveway, pull in the parking lot, come up to the door, knock on it with a statement and say, hey, can you help me with this? $1 million, it's just wild. They're like, well, I drive by here all the time and I see your videos and I thought I'd just stop in. It's literally the first time it happened, I was shocked. And then it kept happening, and it's just fascinating.
I haven't heard that. That's hilarious. That's
it's weird.
Score a point for the legacy brick and mortar.
Yeah. No, seriously. It's like a big, gigantic billboard.
Is there anything that you kind of had to put in place in reaction to this that you're going to keep, or that has been something that says, okay, hey, this is Zoom's the common thing, so I don't know if that's maybe the answer there, but is there anything like that you've had to do to adapt that you're going to say, hey, I'm going to keep doing that even after this is all over?
So in terms of doing like a video conference, yes, I think Zoom or similar systems is something that I will more readily make available to people. The other thing is staffing and the way people work. We're actually going through kind of a staffing shift right now. And I may end up hiring somebody to work completely out of their home. And they're somebody that's here in town, but because of their family situation, whatever, it's easier for them to just have the freedom to do their work whenever they want to do it. And so that's not something I'd ever thought about doing. But now that I've seen, even major corporations doing that, you pick up the phone and call an insurance call center, and half the time I'm hearing dogs or babies or rap playing in the background. Yeah. So it's caused me to think more creatively about how you can operate. And, I think this is happening all over the place, with different companies. You guys have done the same thing. So.
Yeah, I was telling Evan, who I spoke with last week, one of our advisors in Louisville, that we already had, I think, 2 or 3 advisors that joined us since the pandemic started, and we've never met any of them in person because they did what we call virtual office visits. Where
right.
It was like an office visit where it was like you and me, but they did it with every one of our departments.
Right.
So I have another one tomorrow as well. So for a firm like us, I mean, that's a great benefit just because, it's not the biggest expense in the world to fly people in and do dinner, but in terms of time, cost of, time and just the dinners and all the stuff involved with that, we love doing it. But if you could have someone, a bunch of advisors join by just doing a bunch of video interviews, I mean, that's a great scenario.
Sure. Yeah, I have not gone. I know there's folks that are trying to figure out ways to market like this, virtual seminars and all that. I've not done any of that. I don't know if you have advisors through IFP that are doing it or have had success with it. I don't know, but we've not done anything like that yet.
No, I mean, I've heard. I know we're toying around with targeted ads on LinkedIn and then Google ads, but that was the plan before any of this happened. I do know advisors that are doing a lot of that type of thing where they're creating targeted advertising. But
Sure.
That's not a pandemic thing. That's just an advertising.
That's just a business in 2020 thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
So almost like a marketing funnel, essentially.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. So whether personally or professionally, it doesn't matter kind of which side you talk on. What is something that you miss most about when things were quote unquote normal before all this happened?
Oh, I'm sure this is cheesy, but just shaking hands, hugging clients, whatever. I mean, just more of the personal interaction. I do miss that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I am getting used now. We have people that still come in for interviews for jobs here. And I do like not having to worry about the expectation of like shaking their hand. I don't know why, but I kind of like that.
We do the either the air fist bump or the elbow or whatever.
Just like an air hug.
Yeah, air hug. We got hand sanitizer all over the office. I do have clients that and everyone's got a different take on this. They'll come in. In fact, I had the client who's gone. And our conference room is big enough. I was like, man, if you want to wear it, great. I can go get mine, great. Otherwise, we can sit on opposite sides of the table. And so the more I can talk without a mask on, the better I am, as long as everyone's comfortable.
It's hard to talk with the mask on.
It is.
And so then I guess similar question, what's one thing that you'll miss the least, I guess, about what was normal? So, I mean, what is something that's been a positive for you or your family?
Well, I mean, so now we're going back to school, I guess, for me, just because of my life stage, having kids. I mean, that whole ability to see my family throughout the day, intermittently or throughout a week, intermittently was pretty neat. And while it's good, I mean, we don't need to have kids home all the time. They need the social interaction and they need to learn, and mom and dad need a break. But I mean, I'll miss that, although time will tell whether they're going to stay in school. I mean, we give it a couple of weeks, we might shut everything back down again. I hope not, but you never know.
That's funny. Well, that's kind of my short list of questions there. I really just wanted to get a feel for how you guys have been doing and how you've reacted and how things have been different or not. But I think it's always interesting. I found that advisors love hearing from other advisors, or they love hearing about. I'm sure you would attest to that. I mean, people like to see what their peers or an advisor that's achieved certain levels of success, they like to hear what they're doing. Because honestly, I think you guys trust each other more than anyone, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Which I would be. I mean, I would be the same way. So we really think that these conversations will be a good kind of content piece where advisors are going to definitely they're more likely to look up and stay on that screen and watch the video a little longer if it's one of their peers explaining something that you do in your practice.
When are you guys rolling these out?
We filmed one last week. This is the one for this week. And so it's really just, I'm probably the bottleneck. I need to go through and watch them. And we're probably going to, post them on YouTube. But then also, the fact that we talked for 20 plus minutes, there's going to be a lot of little pieces that we could chop up and say, hey, look at this little excerpt from our conversation with Ian. And there are probably pieces that you could use as well. So we can share those with you.
Okay.
Because that's the cool thing about video content is we could all film something together that is for IFP, but it's also maybe a marketing piece that you want to use or send out or at least have. So
yeah,
it's pretty versatile.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Well, I appreciate you guys always being on the cutting edge.
We're doing our best, but I hope everything is all well in Alabama, and give Richard our best.
I'll do it. I'll say hello. I'll look forward to getting back together with you guys if we ever can do that again.
Yeah, I think we moved our in-person conference to the beginning of next year, so assuming things don't get too much worse, we'll hopefully have that, but we didn't think it was prudent to have anything this year, obviously.
No, I totally understand. Yeah, that part would be good to get back to normal.
Yes, sir.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, Chris.
All right, Ian, we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Thank you, Justin.